This car, the Mini, is Britain's best-selling car ever. Over 5 million sold. But its success in terms of sales hides a very surprising fact. We consumers got a much better deal on buying Minis than we ever should have.
In any analysis of companies that failed, something like about 7 out of 10 of those are to do with getting the price wrong.
They could have choked off some demand and raised the price.
You look back at it now, it's insane. Absolutely insane. You worked so hard to create a cool brand, and you can't make enough money out of it.
This is a story that reveals how important it is to get your pricing right if you want to turn a successful product into a successful business. In the 1950s, fewer than 1 in 5 families owned a car. More and more consumers aspired to buy one. But the Suez Crisis left Britain without its assured supply of oil, and it dented the demand for the large gas-guzzling vehicles of the time.
In the wake of the Suez Crisis, there was a crying need for something which was extremely economical.
The cheapest cars on the market were German three-wheeler bubble cars, cheap to buy and cheap to run. Sales tripled in the late 50s, and British car bosses knew they had to win back the initiative.
The remit was to produce something which was the same size as that sort of car, but produce hugely higher standards of accommodation and performance.
The British Motor Corporation hired legendary designer Alec Isigonis. His brief? A small car which would be affordable to everyone.
I mean, that Mini was a stroke of genius. He condensed the essence of a car. Into something that wasn't extravagant or wasteful in any way. It was a brilliant, brilliant design.
Within a year, Alec Isigonis took his Austin Mini prototype to BMC boss Sir Leonard Lord.
I told him, would you like to come for a ride in it? And he said, yes.
He brought over for us to try the prototype of the Mini.
Now, I drove him at a hell of a speed. I'm sure he was terrified.
We were all absolutely bowled over by the swervability, drivability of this amazing skateboard.
He got out of the car and he said, go and make it. And I said to him, but look, I'm a designer, not a car manufacturer.
Leonard Lord had given the Mini the go-ahead. Next, he decided on the price.
Sir Leonard Lord said, we want to put this car on the market for less than £500.
At that price, it would be cheaper than its rival, the Ford Anglia.
We knew that the Ford Anglia was above £500 and that there would obviously be an impact on that product.
The stage was set for Mini's big launch.
I came out dressed as a magician, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to show you something magical in car design. And I waved the magic wand. I said, the magic word is Isigonis. Out came, from this tiny car, the men and the ladies and the dogs and the baby and the luggage. And the audiences stood and cheered. And the effect was very moving and very impactful.
That moment also made waves at Ford.
There were some people at fairly senior level who were really shaken by the Mini. They thought it would cost us volume on the Anglia. And there were some very strong arguments in the boardroom.
For Ford, things were going to get worse. Tony Ball had another trick up his sleeve, which was to make the Mini the most desirable car on the market.
We ensured that personalities like the Beatles, Ringo, and Paul, and John Lennon, and
Peter Sellers had the first Minis and were seen in them and talked about.
When celebrities started buying them, people said, oh, well, perhaps I should have one then.
The Mini attracted a lot of good publicity, and it was really starting to take the market.
BMC clearly had a hit on their hands, a car that was both desirable and inexpensive. But Ford bosses were bewildered. They couldn't understand how BMC could manufacture the Mini so cheaply. So Ford decided to dismantle a Mini and discover its inner secrets.
We analysed the Mini, and we would dismantle the things completely, even to the point of breaking spot welds if we needed to do so. And we tore down, weighed and costed on every component.
Ford's team calculated how much it would cost them to make the Mini, and the result was a figure they couldn't believe.
Based on our analysis, Ford would have incurred £35 of cost over and above the price that they were advertising it at.
BMC was selling the Mini too cheaply.
If Ford couldn't do it profitably, then it was very unlikely anybody else could.
It represented fantastic value for money, perhaps too good value for money.
Clearly, it was a massive error of biblical proportions. That you've created this icon and you're not making a penny out of it.
You can obviously not price a product at less than it costs you. That defeats the object of being in business in the first place, which is to make a profit.
The sheer incredulity of the thing, somebody turning out, I don't know what they're doing, 500 or 600 a day, losing £35 a car. I mean, gosh, you can see the money building up in front of your eyes.
Incredibly, by insisting that a Mini had to be cheaper than £500, it appears that Sir Leonard Lord had given scant attention to the issue of production costs.
In the culture of BMC, we didn't need to know anything about the costs, and so we weren't told anything about the costs. The man on the assembly line certainly would have no concept of costs, nor would his boss, nor would his boss's boss. All we had to do was to get the cars out of the factory and built.
That's probably a reflection of the late 50s, early 60s management that we had in the UK automobile industry, which was heavily subsidised, was heavily government stimulated at the time, and as a result they produced a wonderful product, wonderful idea, but at too low a price.
The goal of a company is not just to sell more, it's to sell more if the money it makes from doing so more than outweighs the money it spends. And that makes pricing an all-important skill in business. It has to marry two things: the cost of the company on the one hand, and the amount that the consumer is willing to pay for a product on the other.
He's got it! It's super!
People will pay higher for a product that says something about them, which says that I only buy the best cars. So pricing, it's by no means always about making it as cheap as possible.
It is said that dealers were forced to take Maxes and Morris 1100s, a lot of other cars, to have one Mini. So I'm certain it helped the overall business, even if it didn't make money itself.
If they'd gone out and talked to the customers who were waiting on these long lists for the Minis, I'm sure they would have found that a lot of them would have been quite happy to pay a little bit more, and the company would have made a lot more money.
The thing for me is that it was a wonderful piece of engineering and totally unique and original. They probably could have sold it for more money.
In due course, BMC started to build pricier, high-spec versions of the car to create some profit.
And you got the Mini Coopers, for which you could charge more money, but for not very much added cost. So all those things hopefully contributed to an improvement in profitability. Whether it was enough, it's not for me to say.
Production of the Mini ended in the year 2000. By then, it was owned by one-time bubble car manufacturer BMW. It went on to launch its own version of the Mini, with prices ranging from £11,000 up to £24,000. It seems unlikely BMW has made the same mistake. New and improved. Two words that businesses love to use. But often it turns out we choose to buy our old favourite. Thank you very much. And the last thing we want is for the winning formula to be changed in any way. Coca-Cola is the world's biggest brand. Its success depends on one essential: a secret recipe kept under lock and key.
When you buy Coke, you're buying into a branding heritage, a cultural icon.
It's an extraordinary product. People did not want that tampered with.
This is the story of an intense rivalry, an ill-considered decision, and Coke shooting itself in the foot. It was April 1985, and Coca-Cola had summoned the press to an important announcement in New York City.
I think the anticipation would be that whatever Coke did would be a smart move. No one anticipated it wouldn't be. Camera crews, the major publications, everybody was going to be there. They orchestrated that part of the event quite well. They know how to do an event.
The really incredible thing was that they were able to keep this a secret for so long.
Coke chairman Roberto Goizueta was ready to let out his secret.
I'm going to get right to the point. The best soft drink, Coca-Cola, is now going to be even better. Simply stated, we have a new formula for Coke.
For a second, the room is dead quiet. And that was a surprise. Coke represents America. And it was sort of like saying, well, we've decided to change the American flag and put the stars someplace else. I mean, what? Why are you doing that?
Cola drinks were invented in the 19th century. Before long, Coke and Pepsi became arch rivals. But by the Second World War, Coca-Cola had established its supremacy.
The U.S. government came to Coke and asked if we could provide Coca-Cola to the troops. We actually had 64 portable bottling plants move around with American GIs.
And when the soldiers left, Coca-Cola stayed, making it a global player.
In all the world, the best-loved sparkling drink is Coca-Cola.
We outsold Pepsi-Cola by margins of 2 to 3 to 1.
Coca-Cola always believed it was its secret formula which gave it the edge.
Coke has a distinctive flavor all its own that no one has ever succeeded in matching.
And for years, Coke's position was unassailable, until...
We were just the upstart, the number two, had been the number two for years and years and years.
By the 70s, tired of trailing behind, Pepsi needed something brilliant, something that would change the game.
All across America, people are taking the Pepsi Challenge.
Pepsi came up with a marketing masterstroke.
We instituted the Pepsi Challenge, which told the nation that more people preferred the taste of Pepsi to Coke.
Can you tell me which one you prefer?
L.
You're both sure you like L better. What was your choice?
And that resulted in significant share gain, and that was very difficult for Coke to accept because they had been the champion forever.
The Pepsi Challenge became